G'day beef hoppers, welcome to Beef Hop Australia 2021. I'm not coming live to you from a location, but I'm pre-recording one for you. We've had a bit of a snow dump today, and in the lead up to Beef Hop I thought I'd do some pre-recorded shots and little sessions of what we're going to photograph today. So here we are at the magnificent Lake Dobson up in Mount Field National Park. It's about an hour from Hobart. Bit of a snowfield up the top there behind us, and this park is actually riddled with these beautiful snow gums here. So what we're going to do for this session, we're going to go out and hunt and see if we can actually get a nice shot of some beautiful snow gums. Get some snow on them, get some patterns in the bark, and show you how I go about photographing them throughout this session here. All right, one of the things I love about Tassie more than most things is the type of trees that we have here. So as you can see behind me, we have a giant old pencil pine. So these trees, you know, this one's probably pushing close to 1,000 years old in regards to age. There's another one over here, behind us over here. They've got amazing root systems and they make really, really photographic topics. So we might even see if we can squeeze a few of those shots into this one if we find a really nice one up in the park here. But pencil pines, really amazing. Tassie's got loads of them. It's starting to really bucket down in snow now, so this is beautiful. I timed it perfectly for you beef hoppers. So let's get into it. Let's see if we can go find something interesting to shoot. All right, just been stomping up a hill here for the last couple of minutes, and there's a nice little field of snow gums I've come across, which are all sort of scattered along these little hillsides here. But got one that's pretty cool right behind me here. We've got this beautiful sort of line of snow that's hit the side of the tree. It's got some really cool colours in it, so we might give this one a bit of a go. So it's also sitting on its own as well, which I like. It's a singular sort of tree. It's got a bit of space behind it, so we can sort of get that sort of depth of field nice and shallow. But yeah, it's got some pretty cool gnarly knots on the side of the trunk there. I'll give you a bit of a closer look to it. As you can see, as we try not to trip over, but you can sort of see it's just got these beautiful patterns all through it. Beautiful knots up there and things like that. So we might give that a bit of a whirl and see how we go getting a shot of that one. So we'll set up our camera and we'll go through some details of how we do it. Alright, so what we've done here, just taken a few minutes to set things up here. It's got this beautiful tree behind us, all ready to go. Like I said, it's got some really good empty space behind the back of it which we can use, which is excellent for sort of trying to separate your topic and make it a bit more interesting. We've got some more weather coming in behind us here as well. Whether or not that brings any more fog across, I'll probably spend a few minutes here trying to figure out whether or not this cloud's going to come across and create some interesting sort of mood to the whole scene. But while we're doing that, I thought I'd just show you what I'm actually shooting on today. So shooting on, this is the Fuji GFX 100 S. As you can see, we've got snow everywhere, it's lovely. And I'm also using the Manfrotto B-Free carbon tripod. This tripod's really, really cool. Really light. It's got a nice easy head on the top to use, and I just love it for hiking. So if you're a bit of a traveller and you don't like lugging that camera tripod around too much, this is the tripod to probably look at. They're not cheap. They range in a few $100s, that's for sure, but you can carry it anywhere. It stops restricting you. It carries up to weight. Like, this is a large camera. This is a pretty heavy camera, and it takes this weight quite easily. It takes anything from the Olympus system I have and so forth. So this is one to look at. Another thing to make sure when we're setting up our tripods as well, a lot of people, it's a bit of a pet hate of mine where they have their tripod lopsided. So, you know, make sure, most cameras will have pretty much what they call like a leveler. So you can actually, I'll see if I can get the screen to show a bit better there. They'll have like a leveling system, like an auto leveler, which allows you to level the camera out. So it's like a spirit level. So you want to be nice and straight to your subject, and as you can see, we're pretty good there. I'm also shooting in portrait mode as well. So portrait mode allows me to get the length of the tree and also the top bits up here which again, once I look at editing this, I might add a bit of cool color to the back of it. It just gives me a bit of space to use in the sky there. So that's the setup we're looking at. I've also incorporated this little bush here. I know, it just adds a little bit more something to the frame. But let's do a shot, and I'll come back and let you know how we go. Alright, so I've just taken a couple of frames of this shot here. So I thought I'd show you what it looks like on the back of the camera there if I can. So that's how I'm sort of framing it. Or automatically I can see I've got some little bits and pieces on the right hand of the frame there that are sort of a bit annoying. A couple of extra trees, which is some of these trees out here. So we want to try and get rid of those. So I might reframe that a bit, but yeah, it's pretty straightforward sort of composition. Just trying to get it so you can see it all. But there's some beautiful detail in those trees and the trunks there, which is really good. But this shot was taken on f8. F8 at about, it was about half a second, I think it was. I would press the button, but I might drop my camera doing that. So yeah, pretty much one thing to remember when you're shooting in snow, because this is such a white scene, and you know, we've got lots of white and lots of high key value everywhere. We've got lots of high key up in the sky here, and we've got obviously all the snow in the foreground here. It can trick the camera a little bit to think that it's shooting in a scene that it's not happy with. So what sometimes it's best to do is overexpose your shot. So this shot's actually been overexposed by a couple of stops, which I can show you on the side there if I get my exposure right there. So it's overexposed by a couple of stops there on the side there. We're shooting at a 40th of a second f8 ISO 200, but overexposing just helps render that snow really more white. It sort of stops it from coming out as being grey, and that's what we want to do. We want to try and get our snow as pure as possible, and you know, we've got a lot of white to work with here, so the main thing is just keeping that camera under control and keeping that exposure under control. Some might think, you know, well, you might blow out these highlights if you overexpose it in the sky. Well, really, there's not much going on in the sky anyway. There's a little bit of cloud detail and definition, but really there's not much, so I'm not too fussed about that. What's important to me is what's in this tree here, so that's why I'm overexposing, just to make sure that I render that tree exactly how I want it to be. Alright, so I've set my camera up, found a bit of a composition I like. I've tried a couple of compositions so far and just didn't sort of work for me. I originally wanted a shot with more of the background and more of the whole structure of the tree. I've got a bit different with that now, so what I've done, I've actually done a bit more of a fuller crop of the tree to really bring out those details in the trunks and the patterns. So this is the kind of shot I'm looking for. It's just this bottom section of the tree, just really to bring out the beautiful details in there. My lens has got all snow over it, I apologise. But you can see there, it's got a beautiful V, it's got some beautiful textures and details up there, so sort of no much further than that is what we'll set up the camera to do. Alright, so this is the composition I'm looking for, is that kind of composition there where just cropping the tree nicely, but it's getting all that beautiful detail on the screen here. You get all that stuff there. So I'm going to shoot this at f8 because we want to make sure we separate that background. We don't want it all blurring into the all sharpness all the way through, otherwise you're just going to lose a lot of this detail on the side into that back messy bit there. So it's going to be f8, about a 15th of a second, ISO 200. We've got a 10-second delay on here. We're focusing right on the middle of the tree. 10 seconds countdown. This will be the most boring 10 seconds of YouTube. And away we go. A couple of seconds left. And it's just going to render it really nicely. We're going to have a really nice shot there. A really beautiful portrait of an old twisted type of snow gum, which is lovely. And you can see we're blowing a few details out in the back, but I'm not too fussed about that. We'll come back to that later. At the moment though, the detail is in that trunk, is where I want it. All that detail in there. It looks lovely. So that's one tree down. I'm pretty happy with that. Like I said, I've taken a few exposures of that one, but I'm pretty happy with that one. We're sort of making a good start to what we can find up here in this snow gum area. One thing I didn't also mention as well, which I think will be quite a common question, is you know, can you use your camera out in snow or out in rain? Well, the answer is yeah, you can. Most cameras will have some sort of weatherproofing these days. Most of the newer models are mostly weatherproofed. I'm shooting on the Olympus here, completely weatherproof. The Fuji down here is completely weatherproof. Most of the Canons and Nikons and Sonys are also weatherproof. So, you know, as long as you clean your camera off at the end, make sure you don't put your camera away in a really hot, moist sort of place. So don't leave it in your backpack with snow on it. Make sure you dry it off, take it all apart, take the battery out, give it all a good dry, and then make sure we leave it in a nice sort of dry but not humid spot though. So if you leave it in a humid spot, you're just going to create moisture and you're going to create fungi in your lenses. But yeah, I shoot out in this weather all the time and I don't have any major concerns as long as you wipe it clean at the end of it. Alright, welcome back beef poppers. We're up to another spot here. Just hiked up the hill for about 10 minutes here and got a bit further up the hill, hence my puffing. It's the off season, so you'll have to excuse me, but I've just found this other lot of chunk of trees here, just these whole sections here. We've got this really cool rock in the foreground as well, and I'll show you what I mean by that. It's got some really sort of nice sort of patterns in the snow, sort of creating these beautiful lines. So I'm going to try and get a shot that sort of incorporates that rock and leads us to this nice little patch of snow gums at the back, which are all wet, all have that detail. The orange contrasting, and the orange, there's a bit of orange on these rocks. It sort of links in together. So when you're shooting landscapes, try and look for colours that work together, what we call complementary colours, or I like to call them similar colours that might work together. But I'm thinking this little patch of, against with the foggy sky, this cool rock in the foreground. I've been very cautious to leave my footprints out of this foreground because I'm going to make this my foreground topic here. So we'll see how we go. But conditions are good. Still puffing a bit. I've really got to get on those trails again. But what a beautiful day. Alright, so we've set up the shot here of this other little scene with the rock and the trees, and it's going to work, it may not work, I'm not too sure, but trying to get this rock in the foreground and the trees in the background. So what we need to do with this one, I'll spin this around again. What we need to do with this one is, I want to make sure we get plenty of focus from the front of the scene all the way to the back. So I'm going to shoot this one a little bit opposite to the last one where we shot more of a shallow depth of field. This one we're going to shoot probably around about sort of f22 on this Fuji here, and I'm going to focus on around about a third of the way into that rock there, and that way it should hopefully render the whole background and foreground nice and sharp. So we'll do a shot of that and we'll see how it comes out. Alright, so we've just got a shot of that. I'm just shooting it in portrait mode again, as you can see. Whether or not it's going to work, I'm not too sure. It's not the strongest of compositions, but I think on the back of this screen it's not looking great. But there is a lot of this red in the rock here, over here, which I think can also marry in nicely to that tree there. So I'm confident that we can get something out of it. Again, we'll pop this shot up and see what we think. But yeah, just using that sort of foreground feature, that rock is like the hero of the shot in this one. And then the colours are sort of complementing the background there. So I shot it as a portrait. I could have probably shot it more as a landscape as well. Or something like along that sort of frame there, that could work as well. That way you get a lot more of the leading trees going down to the background with that rock in the foreground. So we might give that a go as well. It's not as strong as I thought it was going to be. The colour was what sort of caught my eye, matching these colours here. That's what sort of stopped me in my tracks. But we'll give it another go. We'll try another horizontal one and I'll put the shots up and see what you think. Leave a comment below if you think they're good or if you don't think they work. But we're going to keep heading up this hill. I think there's some snow gums up the hill here. A few more with twists as well. So when you're looking at sort of these kind of trees, I'm looking for the bark to twist up the trunk here. And if you can get some of the branches that are really quite gnarly and sort of bent and sort of broken a bit, they look pretty cool. So they're amazing trees and they look so good. This is the perfect day for them in these conditions. But this rock in the front, yeah, maybe it worked, maybe it didn't. Rightio, so we just climbed up this hill a bit further and I think I've come across something that I was sort of looking for, which is great, which is these two little trees here. You can see they're bent nicely. Got some really cool bends on them and they've actually got some really cool patterns on them as well. So I'm really looking forward to just trying to use that. And they've got a big rock next to them. So everything that we were trying to say before in that last one with the rock, we've sort of got everything, all the elements in this one spot here. So might have to get a wider lens out just to fit it all in, but I reckon we can make it work. Got some beautiful twist in it and got some beautiful colours and patterns in it. So what we want to try and do is get those patterns to show out, marry it against the colour of the rock, And we've got actually got some beautiful background as well. There's some actually deeper forest in there behind it with colour as well. So this could be the shot that you're sort of looking for. So been out here for about an hour or so, hunting around. I can see a lot of potential of shots, but what I'm doing is just really being quite strict in what I shoot and take. So there's a few more over here. There's a nice little one here which we might work as well. But again, we'll give it a go on this tree and see how it goes. All right. So we've set up the camera here somewhere behind me. I can't even see where it is anymore. There it is down there. So we've got these two beautiful trees popping up here. So what I want to do, I actually went to a wider angle lens just so I could really fit all those trees and that rock in. The standard lens, which is about 24mm, just wasn't cutting it. So I've gone to around about sort of 18mm and starting to get more of that tree in the background as well with that rock. So it's a beautiful scene. The twirls and twists in those trunks are really nice. So this is what I was looking for as it starts to snow down pretty heavily again. So perfect timing. Camera's set up. We're going to do another one where we're using quite a large depth of field or a larger number. So f22, because I really want to get all that foreground shrubbery as well as the rock and the trees. I want them all in focus. So having a large depth of field to cover that whole scene, we'll make sure we render that all nice and sharp. So still a beautiful day up here. It's a bit of snow coming in over this way. A few birds out chirping. There's no one around. One of the benefits of COVID, if there is one, is that this place is really quiet. The animals are coming out and life's sort of back to normal for the animals without all the tourists. So we'll click a frame here and we'll see how it turns out. All right, so as it starts snowing again, I'll try and get you a bit of a shot there. So that's the composition I went for, using those trees and the rocks. This will come up really nicely after a little bit of an edit. I've got this nice little shrubbery in the foreground here, which I like, which is just this bit here in regards to where we are. So I'll just bring that exposure down a little bit just so you're not bright there. So pretty much what we've done is use that foreground, incorporate all the trees and been able to make a nice little print to that, or a nice little frame of that. So this is a classic snowgum shot from Mount Field in Tasmania on a snowy day. Found some more trees. A bit further up the hill, a bit more puffing. It's not a big hill, just unfit. But you can see there's a nice little beautiful tree behind us here, which could work really nicely for a shot. But the one behind me here is better, in my opinion. So we've got this beautiful sort of three-prong root system coming up, and the colours on this tree are golden, yellow, green. They're really, really cool. So I've got the camera set up. We're going to shoot a wide-angle portrait, so we're going to try and get as much as this tree in as possible. And I think it's going to work. It's got a really amazing golden colour, and it's got a little bit of snow on it. The weather's clearing up a bit, so I don't think I've got much longer before we sort of start getting some brighter light here and we start losing this atmosphere of mood. So I've got one more down the hill I'm going to do on the way back, but this will be the second last tree I shoot, I reckon. And I'm glad I came a bit further. I'm a big believer effort equals reward, so like I said, it's not a big hill, I'm just unfit. But we got up the hill here. But this one's going to be working really nicely, so we'll take a shot and we'll show you how we did it. So we've done a couple of shots here. So as I said, I'm going to go portrait mode just so I can get that tree. It's quite a big tree as well. If I just zoom in, if I just pan out for you, it's quite a big tree that it is in general. Goes all the way up there. So I'm trying to get as much of that tree in as possible, but having the trunk dead center in the frame I think is crucial. So we can have it sort of something along the lines like that. It's looking pretty good. Again, shooting around about f22 because I'm going to get a little bit of that foreground in there as well. So just want to make sure the foreground's nice and sharp in there. But the tree is also quite deep. It goes back a fair way in regards to the depth of the tree. So I want to make sure I've got enough aperture and depth of field or depth of focus to cover that as much as we can. So it's on top of a nice big hill here. It's a beautiful outlook. We've got some beautiful snow showers coming in over the top here on Mount Field. And yeah, it's pretty magical. And this is the kind of day you want to be out here. But so yeah, shooting again, shooting on this Fujifilm camera, using this Manfrotto B-Free carbon, which I love. It just allows me to hike up hills and puff, not as much as I would normally puff. But that's a beautiful tree, and I'm hoping I can do it justice with the photo. So hopefully, once we get it edited a bit and make it look a bit nicer, it'll be looking quite nice. But it's got a lot of potential, this one. Big spreading snow gum with beautiful colours. One thing I mentioned as well, which I probably haven't mentioned throughout this video, is in regards to the circular polarizing filter, still becomes very relevant to use a circular polarizer in these situations. Using that polarizing filter will take a lot of the glare off the trees. So having a look around here, all these wet trees over here, all the trunks have got glare on them from this beautiful skylight we've got above us. So what we want to do is we want to actually take the glare off that so it brings out those true colors. So just because it's overcast and a bit moody, don't take your polarizer off, leave it on. Big difference if you take it off versus if it's on. So I've had the polarizer filter on the camera the whole day, and I think it'll make a big difference with these colors in the tree, because you don't want to get back to your computer and have the colors on the tree that you saw looking a bit washed out or reflective light from the sky above. So make sure, keep that circular polarizer on, give it a twist, give it a couple of twists so you make sure you can see the difference that it's making, and you'll see a huge difference. All right, so just thought I was going to almost pack up this shot of this last tree that we did without falling over. But I just sort of had a bit of a thought that maybe I'll get a bit closer to this tree. The actual branches, that what caught my attention was this sort of crosshair of trunk there. So I was looking at that as more as what the interest of it was. So what I've done, I've actually gone in nice and close now and actually taken almost a full frame shot of that tree, and I'll show you what that looks like. So getting a shot now more like this with a full frame type of scenario with the camera here, and I've done it as a portrait, and I've also done it as a horizontal as well. So you'll see here on the tree there on the screen, just looks a bit nicer now, just a bit more interesting. All the details of that tree really come into play now. We haven't got any distractions behind, so I think I made the right choice there of just actually cropping it full. You've got this beautiful cross section of all these colors, so I'm really excited about this one, and I think it's going to be one that works. Even cropping it in further, something like that, just detailed, really abstract, looked really great on someone's wall, framed up. So I'm glad I found this tree, and been here for about 10 minutes now, 20 minutes, just trying to work it out. Was just about to pack up, and I thought, hang on a sec, I'll just go in a bit closer instead of having the further back view. We've gone in nice and close and got something nice and interesting. Alright, so just come across this one other tree here. It's really cool. It's sort of, it looks like it dies off in the middle here and then sort of goes into a darker colour, but it's got some really cool twists and turns to it. It goes out to the back, over the back there as well. We've got this interesting little rock in the foreground. We might be able to use that as well. But it's just got some really cool colours, and it really sort of sunburny sort of orange colour going through here, which is nice. There's a little bit of mess behind it. I would love to not have these trees in the background, and I can't seem to get an angle on it where I separate it. If I keep going around the other side, I start incorporating some potential man-made objects, which sort of takes away from that wilderness feel. So we'll give this one a go. This will probably be the last one I'll do for the day, I reckon, and then head down the mountain, maybe get a hot chocolate, and make the way back home to Hobart. So we'll see how we go. Alright, so we've set up here and just trying to get a nice composition of it. Trying to use these rocks in the foreground here, which are just ones over here, and they're trying to get them in that frame to sort of just help add a bit of colour. They've got that orange lichen on there as well, which sort of matches the tree. So yeah, again, this is not probably the best one of the day. This is probably one of the nicer ones, but not the best, that's for sure. But just trying to get a composition. I've actually gone pretty low in my composition setup in regards to where my tripod is, purely just to get myself a bit more room to get higher up on there. So sometimes you need to have your tripod a bit lower, so we're sort of shooting down from more this angle here and shooting up like that, so it accentuates all the branches and things like that. So see how I go. we'll take a shot, we'll put it up on the screen. Probably going to shoot around about sort of f22, focusing on this front rock. So we want to make sure this rock in here gets in focus along with that one, and obviously the tree. So f22 on this Fuji works pretty well for a pretty long and deep depth of field. So we'll see how this one goes. We'll put this up on the screen. I think it'll work. This colour in here is beautiful, which is what caught my eye. And this interesting thing where it's sort of just, the bark's peeled off and it's just gone to nothing. So I'll actually show you that up close. It's pretty cool actually. So you can see there, it's gone, and that limb's died. And again, just really quite gnarly. But the colour up this end of the tree and the trunk is really, really nice. So that's what we're sort of going for, getting that nice, beautiful colour. Contrasting against the white background becomes nice and easy. So we'll give this one a go, we'll put it on the screen and see how it looks. Alright, beef hoppers, that's it for me for this session. Getting a bit cold, fingers are going blue, nose is running, and it's getting late in the day. So we spent about 2 hours here. Just to reiterate where we are in the Mountfield National Park, about an hour from Hobart. We are at the top near Lake Dobson, which is just over the back here. We've been shooting these amazing snowgum trees all through this little forest section here. It's been a lovely day. It's getting a bit windy and it's getting a bit cold. So much for spring in Tasmania. Really looking forward to the rest of the festival. I hope you're having a fun time so far. And make sure you get out there and shoot when you can, as much as you can. So thanks for watching. Hopefully you've picked up some tips about how to shoot trees and snowgums and how to navigate your way around the snow a bit more. It's been a lot of fun, so thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you at the next session. Ciao.